Awakened Radio, your kind of talk radio station. Yeah, we're different. Although we are a talk radio station, and yes, we're online, and yes, we're also mobile through many online and mobile directories. We are a little bit different than the other radio stations. We do discuss self-help, healing, what's going on in our country, legislation, politics, the paranormal, but we do it with a kick. We're looking for solutions. We're looking for answers at Awakened Radio. If you're interested in creating a brand new experience for yourself, check us out. Join us. We have a live chat room available 24/7 at our website. Come on over to awakenedradio.net. Look at the top. You'll see our navigation bar for our chat room, our Awakened store, our services, our media, our forums, our Meet the Host page, how to advertise with us, how to sponsor with us, all the information that you want to know about us here at Awakened Radio. Well, it's at our website, awakenedradio.net. We are a different kind of talk radio station. Check us out. You'll love us.
Welcome. You are now tuned in to Your Unfolding Senses on Awakened Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ragazine. This show is all about opening to and listening to your full intuitive capabilities. I offer tips and techniques such as meditation, dream work, and more for relaxing and connecting to your intuition. I'm on the air Thursday at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. This show is brought to you by intuitionbyrob.net, helping you to connect to your own inner wisdom. Please enjoy the show and invite your friends. Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. It's 10 p.m. Eastern, July 18th, 2013. I'm Rob Ragazine, your host, explorer, and intuitive person on the air. Your Unfolding Senses is about opening to your inner wisdom, and we're all intuitive. On this show, we talk about the tools, technology, and techniques for centering, connecting inward, and learning to truly listen to ourselves. And with a focus on helping you to find the tools that work for you. Feel free to call in and ask questions or make comments on intuition, dreams, or the topic we're discussing tonight, which is more body related. It's about the Paleo, Primal lifestyle diet. You can join us in the chat room at awakenedradio.net and click on the live chat tab, or add us to Skype by adding Awakened Radio or dialing 334-649-7204. Now, the information tonight doesn't replace medical advice, so work with your doctor or nutritionist to find the foods and the medicines that will best help you to stay healthy and do whatever is appropriate for you. Just because you hear it here doesn't mean go out and change your whole lifestyle overnight. Have patience and compassion for yourself and be gentle. So tonight, we have a guest who will be appearing on the show with me, and her name is Kathryn Koss of primalblissnutrition.com. And you might think of this way of eating as a lifestyle rather than a diet, because it's not a fad. It's really about paying better attention to the food that you're eating. Successfully eating this way really involves consciously choosing foods that are minimally processed. And there is theory, of course, attached to the diet, and that's that our genetics have largely remained the same since pre-agricultural times. So it's really about looking back to those times to see what did we eat, what was in our diet, and obviously M&Ms were not in our diet. So cutting out the M&Ms, cutting out a lot of the sugar, and welcoming in meats, welcoming in vegetables. And unlike some of the other high-protein, low-carb diets, carbs are welcome, especially vegetables, plenty of vegetables. And we're not eating fast food burgers and hot dogs at the mall. We're eating minimally processed meats, probably from local farms in your area. And I'm very interested in seeing how people can connect more to their bodies by paying attention to their nutrition and eliminating the chemicals and eating more naturally. And I believe Kathryn's on the air with me right now. So
yes,
welcome,
hello.
Kathryn.
Hi.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. So I was just about to introduce you, and since you're here, you can do that for us.
Okay. Well, my name is Kathryn, and I'm a blogger at primalblissnutrition.com. And I also have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/primalblissnutrition. And I advocate for eating like our ancestors, nutrient-dense whole foods. And also primal parenting, big on raising primally inspired children, connecting with nature and connecting with the earth and with each other. And so I kind of throw that in as well.
I like what you put on your blog about the eating this way. And she says, my passion lies in understanding food and the profound effect it has on the mind and body. It is my hope to make a career out of helping people heal their bodies through healthy eating, as well as finding peace and balance in life.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, you're going in September to become a nutritionist.
Yes. Yes, I'm
How did you become interested in that and simply eating this way? Was it your family? Was it really a health issue? What was the main driving force?
Well, I've always had an interest in health and nutrition. My undergraduate degree is in health and wellness, and I've always loved to help people better their lives in some way. So my master's degree is in rehab counseling and disability studies, so I kind of worked with people healing that way. I've always had a profound interest in nutrition and how foods affect your body. And for a while, I actually ate vegetarian after having children, and just, thinking that was the healthiest way to eat. I worked in cardiac rehab. I worked with cardiac patients, and I was always taught that saturated fats and meats are bad for your body. So I, kind of had that mindset going in. But I became really sick myself with several autoimmune issues. And autoimmune is when your immune system's not functioning properly. Usually it's because of something going on in the gut. I guess there's a term for it they call leaky gut, or being able to having difficulty absorbing nutrients from the foods that you're eating. So definitely, I was having a lot of issues. I was diagnosed with celiacs and thyroid issues. So I started exploring ways to heal my gut, and learned through doing a lot of my own research. A lot of the foods that I was eating were actually harming my body, and they, were blocking nutrient absorption. I was having issues with my blood sugar, where I was hungry every hour, and I would get shaky between meals. And I realized that I was really dependent upon grains to kind of satiate me, and they pretty much turn into sugar in your body, digest as sugar in your body. So I was hungry frequently, and really through switching to the Primal diet, lifestyle. I don't like to say diet, but the primal lifestyle, because it's, how our bodies are really designed to eat. I was able to heal myself and feel amazing, feel better in my 30s than I did in my 20s. So it's been a godsend.
Well, that's really good to hear. Now, has your research led you to look into any of the GMO awareness that's happening now?
Oh, absolutely. I am definitely aware of what's going on with Monsanto and just all of that. And definitely on top of that, it's an uphill battle, but I think it's a battle that's definitely worth fighting. I try to buy local. I try to stick to the dirty dozen when it comes to buying organics, and
it can be complicated. Yes, but I've just started to get into a CSA program myself, and I've been looking at the paleo diet. And I think one of the most common things that keeps hitting me is you're really developing a closer relationship to your food. So if you're looking to eat more meat, you don't want to be eating at Burger King or McDonald's or any fast food place.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of times people hear paleo diet and they think, oh, right away it's meat and it's very destructive. But it's also, I think a lot of people who follow this lifestyle are aware of the sources of their meat and where their meat is coming from and how the animal was treated and what the animal was fed is very important. And even with healing your gut through this diet, you don't want to be eating animals that are sick and grain-fed and fed genetically modified soy and penned up. And, that it makes a difference in your health if you're aware of your food source and how the animal was treated and where your food was coming from. So a lot of times people think paleo and they automatically assume that you're just devouring boatloads of meat. And I'm eating I'm eating way more fruits and vegetables than I ever ate before going paleo, and definitely eating meat, but I think I'm more aware of.
You're not eating bacon every day, and you're not out at the fast food place eating burgers. You're making it yourself.
Absolutely. I cook for my children. I cook every single meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. Rarely do I eat out, and when I do, I usually get sick because there's usually gluten and cross-contaminated at the restaurant, so I rarely eat out, but when I do, I ask a lot of questions and, to be very careful.
So, as we're talking about the meat, what I've been noticing is you really want to look for, on the packages, animals that are grass-fed, pasture-raised, probably organic, obviously. So it's really paying attention to these packages, and I'm starting to see more and more in the grocery shops, in the bigger grocery chains, that are actually carrying these kinds of meats.
Yes, I just the Hannaford that I shop at local to where I live just started carrying 100% grass-fed, grass-finished meat, which is before they had their all-natural, which was grass-fed and grain-finished. And when it's grain-finished, it definitely makes a difference in the fatty acid profile and the health benefits. So I'm really thrilled that more grocery stores are picking up on this. I try to buy my meats from there's a lot of local farms around here that have 100% grass-fed and grass-finished meats, and the price is actually quite reasonable. So I try to buy most of my meats there, but on occasion I have to pick up the meats at the grocery store, so it's nice to know that they're starting to move in that direction and realize that, this is what people are looking for.
So what's your process when you do go grocery shopping? Do you tend to stick to a few sections of the store? How do you...
I actually did a blog post on this. I did my Primal grocery staples at Trader Joe's. I drive 45 minutes each direction to go to Trader Joe's as often as I can. I save about a third off my grocery bill. But even you still have to be careful, because even though it's Trader Joe's, a lot of the stuff they sell is still processed foods, and just because it has the Trader Joe's label doesn't necessarily make it nutrient dense and healthy. So I try to, my first priority is always the farmer's market and get as much fresh meats and produce from there as I can. And then Trader Joe's and any grocery store you go to, I definitely recommend sticking to the outer aisle and avoiding the middle aisle where all the packaged foods are, but sticking to the produce and the fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and eggs, and kind of usually they fall all around the outer part of the grocery store. When you start to go in the middle aisles, there's a few things I do buy in the middle aisles, like the coconut oil and the almond butter and the wild canned salmon, but most of the stuff is definitely sticking to the outer, all around the perimeter of the grocery store is definitely a good, and just for getting the fresh produce. And another way to look at it is real food rots, and real food does not last. Whereas packaged foods, because of everything added to them, they usually don't rot.
We've all seen the pictures of the hamburger that's lasted for months and months and months, and there's no mold on it.
Yeah.
So to begin to wonder about that, and how does that happen?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, is it, obviously there's more work with children, because now you have to tailor the menu to their taste to some degree. So how is that for you?
Well, I try not to tailor to their taste. I try to, this is what we're having kind of thing. I think the biggest challenge in raising children is really, for me, is culturally, like the outside influences of, because other people kind of, we're all kind of following the standard American diet, and so people offering my children other things outside, they get the taste for it that way, and it makes it more challenging at home. In the house,
I was reading one of your posts where you were talking about the process of feeling bad about someone saying, "Oh, it's just one thing," or the marketing, the whole ploy around that, and it's really about having the courage, I guess, to live in the way that you want to live.
Yes, it's very challenging. It's also challenging because when you're a mom with young children and you're taking them to play dates and play groups, and you're doing all these different outside activities, it affects friendships with other moms as well, because a lot of people just really don't understand, and they see it as a threat, like because you're doing something different from what they're used to. It can be really challenging, and I'm not a big fan. I mean, I have a lot of friends that will just come right out and say my child has a food allergy, and I don't want to
label them.
Right. I don't want them to tell them they have a food allergy if they don't. Both my children are definitely sensitive to gluten, dairy, and soy. I mean, they definitely get belly aches when they have a lot of that. So I just do I always tell people, you just do the best you can at home and be consistent at home, and then sometimes I just have to let go. For certain things, I'm deaf, and everyone's different. Some people pack their children's food for every single thing, and they're very, very strict with it. And some people have to be because they do have food allergies. So, and I think as people are understanding more and more the profound effect that the diet does have on children, and the different ways that it can affect them, I think there's more of an awareness, so I think people are starting to catch on and understand a little more, but it's just going to take time.
I think they're learning to invest in their future versus eat the quick fast food meal now.
The hardest part is really understanding how it affects them in the long run, because a lot of times you don't really outwardly see too much in the children when they're eating those types of foods, but what it's doing to their gut and affecting them in terms of like disease processes and lifelong issues, and when autoimmune conditions start popping up when you hit your 20s and 30s and you start to have medical issues and you don't understand. But it's from years and years and years of putting these foods that have a difficult time, your gut has a difficult time handling, and then you're not absorbing as much nutrients from your diet, and it can affect, it starts to affect things. So a lot of times, because I think if people saw more of a profound effect on the children right away, then maybe they would understand a little, people would have a better understanding. But I think because these processes really don't start showing up until adulthood, it's a little harder for people to understand, well, my child's just fine, they're acting just fine, it doesn't seem to affect them, but they're not really understanding the effects that it can have long term on their health.
Now, how do you get that message across?
In terms of my children?
Yeah.
Or in general with my blog?
I guess with your children, they see all the other children eating the snack cakes and the whatnot, and they can't have it.
I make them. I definitely bake for them a lot. I bake with, I use raw honey and coconut flour and almond meal, and I make them little things, not all the time, but on occasion with that. I explain to them that, this is not good for your body, and Mommy's not trying to be mean. I'm not trying, I tell them I'm not doing this because I'm trying to be mean. I'm not giving this to you because it hurts your body, and I just try to explain to them. And this is how we do it at our house, and every family's different. It is challenging, I'm not going to lie. It is very challenging, and it's one of the hardest things ever to deal with. I mean, I literally deal with it on a daily basis with friends and family and, people that just really, and I don't blame them, they just really don't fully understand. So, it's definitely, every time I talk about it, this lifestyle is not challenging at all for me, but it's definitely challenging with children, and it's mostly challenging because of our culture and how we think about food. We think about food as reward and pleasure, and really it doesn't need to be thought of that way, but it's just really how we, I think, have been kind of socially ingrained to think about food. So, no, it's definitely not easy.
It's about making the conscious choice to eat in a way that brings nutrition and energy to you so you feel better. I think.
I try to explain that to them as well, that you and they know. I mean, they've kind of, even sometimes they learn a little bit on their own, and giving them that freedom to, okay, you want to eat this, go ahead and eat it and see how you feel afterwards. And usually they end up with a bellyache and they say, I never want to eat that again, kind of thing. Like my son played at one of his friends' houses and ate Doritos, and he came home and threw up, and he said, I never want to eat those again. And it's just kind of explaining, well, this is why Mommy doesn't buy this kind of stuff, because it hurts your body and it's not good for you. So it's it's not easy, that's for sure.
Now, do you keep a journal about the changes that you've noticed for yourself?
I haven't kept a journal, no, but I've definitely noticed quite a few positive changes. I've definitely noticed. I used to deal with a lot of intestinal issues and stomach pains, anxiety, difficulty sleeping, fluctuate with I have Hashimoto's thyroid, which is related to gluten consumption and soy, which really affects your hormones, and all of that has pretty much leveled, and so I feel great. I feel amazing. Definitely better than I felt years ago. I feel younger. I feel how I kind of wish I started in my 20s, that's for sure. So it's definitely made a huge difference, just how I feel emotionally and physically and energy and sleep and everything. It definitely makes a big difference in how you feel.
So what would be a first step you might recommend to someone that's thinking about making a switch over to this lifestyle?
It depends on the person. Some people are really good at just getting rid of everything and going all out 100%, and some people it works better in steps. It took me a little over a year to transition. I started with going just gluten-free, but the thing is a lot of the gluten-free snacks is just processed grains as well, just in another form, and it still messes with your blood sugar. I was still having those where I was hungry frequently and relying on pretty much sugar for fuel instead of fat and protein for fuel. Now that I get my carbohydrates from sweet potatoes and squash and vegetable sources and bananas and fruit and things like that, it definitely, and I'm eating them with fats and proteins, my blood sugar has stabilized quite a bit. So I don't need to eat as frequently, and I'm not having that low blood sugar, almost where you get angry and moody, and everything's just stabilized quite a bit. So it's definitely made a difference that way.
We have about 5 minutes till our break time. So do you have any, and the show's an hour, but we have about 5 minutes, so you can use some of that time to share some links you might have for your website again.
Okay. My website is www.primalblissnutrition.com. I'm on Facebook. It's facebook.com/primalblissnutrition. And I'm also on Twitter, twitter.com/primalbliss, but I really just have it connected to my Facebook, so whatever I type usually just gets tweeted on Facebook. Tweeted on Twitter. I don't actually get on Twitter. And I'm also on Instagram, and I post pictures of the foods that I prepare, and also on Instagram sometimes I'll post a little bit more of my personal side, which is I don't share as much on Facebook.
And I do see some of the recipes that you share there and some of the cross-posting from some of the other sites. Now, are those just professional people who've written books, or is it open to almost anyone?
It depends on the site. A lot of the people, a lot of the blogs and Facebook pages that I follow are, they do have cookbooks or they're published authors, but some of them aren't. Some of them are nutritionists, dietitians, health coaches, parents. It all varies. It's all different levels. Just people who are passionate about real food education and helping people make positive changes in their life. The main one the first book that I read, and the main person that really was kind of got me into the field was Mark Sisson, and the book is Primal Blueprint, and I highly recommend that one. And then I follow Balanced Bites. Her book is Practical Paleo, and it's fairly new, and it's very, very informative and easy to read, and it really just helps you gain an understanding of the lifestyle and why, how we are designed to eat and the effects that different foods have on the body.
Right, because it's really, as we were talking about here, about consciously looking at where your food is coming from. I think that's the biggest issue. To make sure your animals...
Also just learning that some things that are labeled as food are not really food.
Right.
And letting go of that trust that we have in the food, in that whole system, because it's, anyone can sell anything, and commercials don't mean anything. They're just trying to sell a product, so they can make any claim in the world, and it doesn't matter. It's not real food. It's not food. So that's the hardest part, is letting go of those, those beliefs, that trust that, okay, so it says Pop-Tarts are made with whole grains, so they must be healthy. It doesn't matter. Even the term whole grain does not mean anything. So
natural, whole grain, none of that really means anything.
No, it's all marketing. It's all marketing. And so just moving past that and educating yourself and realizing that, maybe something is not right here. Maybe there is another way, and just not totally disregarding that, because once I embraced this lifestyle, it has just it's been amazing. The health benefits have been amazing, and the changes have been incredible.
Well, okay. Thank you for this past half hour. Stay with us for the next half hour. And if you have questions or comments, you can type them in our chat room, and I'm sure Kathryn will be happy to answer them.
Awakened Radio was brought to you by our listeners. Those of you who enjoy our wide range of topics and our wide range of listenership. We really do cover the globe with thought and geographic location. Thank you so much for taking part, for coming over and joining us in our chat room, and for clicking that donate button while you're there. We appreciate your contributions. They are what has helped us to grow and will help us to grow even more. While you're at our website, please visit our Awakened store. Take part in our forum conversations. Check out all of the pages at awakenedradio.net. Get to know us. You'll like us. We're really a friendly bunch. Thank you for helping make Awakened Radio possible.
Welcome. You are now tuned in to Your Unfolding Senses on Awakened Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ragazine. This show is all about opening to and listening to your full intuitive capabilities. I offer tips and techniques such as meditation, dream work, and more for relaxing and connecting to your intuition. I'm on the air Thursday at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. This show is brought to you by intuitionbyrob.net, helping you to connect to your own inner wisdom. Please enjoy the show and invite your friends. And we're back. And if you have any questions, you can come to the chat room, awakenedradio.net, and come to the live chat room and type your questions in there. Or you can call us via Skype by adding Awakened Radio to Skype or dialing 334-649-7204. We're talking with Kathryn tonight about Primal, Paleo diet and some of the reasons for eating that way, especially if you're concerned about your health. Now, we were talking about the gluten issue before the break, and what I've noticed, especially in the grocery stores, is there's tons of gluten-free products, but then you look at the ingredients and they're all junk anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
So now you're hooked.
Usually the gluten-free products are, still loaded with sugar, and actually sometimes they add more to kind of help with the flavor a little bit. So they're definitely not any better, not any healthier. You're not getting the nutrient density that your body needs. And so a lot of times, people think I'm going gluten-free, so you just switch over to you're still eating the packaged processed products. So just changing the mindset, instead of using the term gluten-free, using the term instead that you're just going to switch to a more nutrient-dense whole food diet, real food that doesn't come in a package, fresh meats and vegetables and produce, and just kind of changing that mindset.
And supporting your local community, too. Absolutely. Supporting local farms, supporting the local farmers, and getting food that hasn't traveled and sat in boxes and sat in silos for, who knows how long. Knowing that you can nurture your body with real, local, nutrient-dense whole foods it makes a huge difference, definitely. So I'm really enjoying finding the...
Light.
Excuse me?
I was going to say just looking at gluten-free in a different light, instead of looking at it as I'm going to go gluten-free and just switching to a different kind of bread and a different kind of pasta. Instead, look at it as I'm going to cut this stuff out and try to eat more. Again, I use the word nutrient dense a lot, but just getting those nutrients that your body needs.
To recognize that you just look at the ingredients on those packages and you're eating the different food, but same problems.
Absolutely.
You still have issues with them. Some high sodium, whatever it is, it's still junk.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Absolutely, I agree.
So the simpler, the better.
Yeah.
Now, the most people say, well, what do I eat for breakfast now? Do I go to Denny's? Or do I go to whatever, some fast food place? Can I eat all the bacon that I want? And, of course, the answer is no.
Yes, again, those are misconceptions. And, bacon is wonderful if it's from a pastured pig who is eating its natural diet. It's just not the same as the bacon that you find at the grocery store. Bacon at the farm is completely different. And now I just lost my train of thought. Your question again?
Well, I think people don't realize that they can't eat all the meat that they want. You really need to think about what kind of food they're putting into their body. So you're not stuffing it with bacon for breakfast, for instance.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So breakfast. Yes, that's where I was at. Yes. So what to eat for breakfast exactly. And the way I look at it, I actually just did a post on my blog on breakfast and thinking outside of the cereal box, I think is what it's called. We're kind of conditioned again to think that you need to have a bowl of cereal or a bagel in the morning or bacon and eggs. Like there's just like these traditional breakfast ideas that we kind of have ingrained in our minds. So I always try to advocate for thinking outside of those types of things and thinking that any food can be breakfast food. Really, I mean, we have. I make the kids. I think it was yesterday. We had burger sliders for breakfast. I took some grass-fed ground beef and made these tiny little burger patties for the kids and seasoned them and cooked them with some bok choy on the side, which they like it sautéed in butter. People always ask me how I get my kids to eat their vegetables, and they really like them sautéed in butter with like onion powder and seasonings.
Well, fat isn't the enemy here. I think that's what people have to realize. We have the low carb drilled into our heads, and that's all people can think.
Mhm. No, and it's really not. I think we say low carb because it's much less carb than what you're used to consuming when you're eating grains 6 times a day. So it's definitely much lower than the standard American diet carbohydrate intake. But you're eating the right amount of carbs that your body needs and the right kind of carbs. So that's the difference. It's really not low carb, and actually it's normal carb. I mean, it's the amount of you're eating the amount of carbs that our bodies are designed to eat. But we call it low carb because it's lower than what we're accustomed to as a culture in terms of, like I said, eating a bagel.
Eating a bagel, which is twice the normal size.
For breakfast, eating a sandwich for lunch, eating bread with dinner, eating a big bowl of pasta for dinner. We're eating like way more carbs than our bodies can handle. So now when you're switching to this diet, you assume that it's low carb because it's significantly less carb than what you're used to consuming, but actually I don't advocate low carb. I advocate, eating the right amount of carbs for your body. And that also, there's things to factor into that, like your physical activity level. If you're training, then obviously you're going to want more glucose for your brain and for your muscle recovery. And again, getting those carbohydrates from good food, vegetable sources and good food sources is actually, definitely what I advocate for.
And
but I
the
think
meat
it's
isn't the
the
package.
That the Primal diet and Paleo diet is a low-carb diet. It's really not low-carb.
Right.
It's normal. It's normal carb, but it's just we consider it low-carb because of what we're accustomed to in terms of carb load. Very sick society, and we definitely overeat the grains.
Well, we get stuck on calories or low carb or low fat, and really we could just think natural foods and we'll be okay.
Yes, and that's the other thing is the whole low-fat craze. And I think we're afraid of fat, and we think that fat makes us fat, and our bodies need fat. I mean, fat is amazing. It's brain food. It's wonderful for your body and for your functionings and for the myelin in your brain and for connections and for, memory and thinking and for your skin and for your organs. Like, we really need fat. And when I was eating a lot of grains and low fat, I remember I was having issues with just having difficulty remembering things, and I definitely see a huge difference. And my weight is, where it should be, and I eat a ton of fat. So I always try to advocate not to be afraid of eating fat. Fat does not make you fat. It actually nourishes your body, and it's a really good thing.
As long as, again, it's going back to not the grain-fed animals, but the pasture-raised.
Yes, the right kinds of fats. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Coconut oil and fat from animals. You want the fatty acid profile to be at the right level. And cows who are pasture-raised and grass-fed, they're getting that more normal ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fat ratio where you want it to be at for for normal functioning. It's definitely there's definitely a huge difference in the fat profile between grain-fed and grass-fed. Definitely.
Yes, I was reading your post on how cows raised on the pasture produce milk fat with, I guess, a even omega-6 to omega-3 ratio?
Yes.
So, versus the cows that are grain-fed, it's more tilted towards the omega-6.
And the other thing is the grass-fed has it's called conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, which is a really, really good fat that your body needs. And cows that are grass-fed have high levels of CLA, which is really good for your body. It's a really good nutrient, and we need it. And it's that cows that are grain-fed do not have those high levels of CLA so it's definitely a completely different profile of the fats that you consume. It's completely different. So when you're saying that you're eating beef all the time, I think people are turned off, but they're not realizing that the type of beef that is being consumed is a much healthier, kind of like the meats back when, back in the era when the animals were out grazing and they weren't penned up and fed an unnatural diet.
Well, they weren't. The meat wasn't processed and chemicals weren't added either. That's part of the problem.
Absolutely. Packaged and processed and,
And who knows what's in there. I was just reading today where there's issues with the pigs, with workers. The factory farm workers have MRSA just because of the conditions of the farms.
Yes, absolutely. When the animals are all penned up, there's a lot more risk of these different types of diseases coming up, where when they're out and they're not standing in their feces and they're out out in the pastures eating their natural diet is definitely a lot more, I think, safe. So you don't have, there's not that concern, whereas there's that concern, and so there's the need for, with these factory farms, for these drugs and antibiotics and chemicals and things just to make the food consumable, whereas it's just not necessary.
Now, do you know of any organizations that have lists of local farms so that people can go and find them? I think there is, what is it, NOFA? And
yes, there is. I have some links. I'll have to, I'm not thinking of it off the top of my head, but I do have some links that I can share after.
Okay. I mentioned to you that I had read the Beyond Bacon and the Whole Hog, and I really think those are good books, at least for me, to help really recognize what we're talking about here. It's, again, connecting to the animal and finding farmers who are raising healthy animals in a way that, like you said, pasture-raised, not in pens, and you can then order a whole animal and use the whole thing for your family.
Yes. You can, and a lot of people decide that they order, they get a deep freezer and order a whole animal or split one with someone, like half and quarter, and you get every single part of the animal. And, you can use, really, as our ancestors, you can use every part of the animal. Even the bones, cooking the bones down and making bone broth. Bone broth is supposed to be very, very healing for the body and for the gut, and for your skin and nutrition. Like, there's lots of benefits for that. So you can really use every single part of the animal and feel good about it because the animal was treated humanely and fed its natural diet. So it's, again, very different than buying, just going to the grocery store and buying meat that's just been through, like, factory produced.
Well, it seems like almost anything ground.
I was going to say another couple good books that really are for beginners is It Starts with Food and Well Fed are both a couple other good ones.
Okay. Then I guess in the chat room, Donna mentions localharvest.org. I guess that can help find some local farms and such to find, or is that just...
I have heard of that one. Yes,
yeah.
I have heard of that. Absolutely. And you could even just do a Google search. A lot of times people don't realize how many farms are around them. And farmers, getting to know the farmers and visiting the farms. And, sometimes people say, well, I'm on a budget. But a lot of the farmers are willing to work with people that are on a budget and help them out. So just going and talking to the farmers and asking them what they feed and getting to know them. The kids, I like to take the kids just to visit the farms, and they like to see the animals and, there's a big... You
really develop a relationship.
Really helps
it's more about...
develop an understanding of where their food is coming from. Absolutely.
And building a community.
Separated from our food sources, because that's the other thing, is we're just very separated from our food sources. So we just see it as meat in a package, and we don't really understand the whole process of what that meat has been, how it's traveled, how the animal was treated, how the animal was fed. We just buy it and don't even think about it. So I think starting children off at a young age with visiting the farms and seeing exactly where their food comes from, I think it just hits them more home, and they have a better understanding of where their food came from.
Now, do your children have any... When you mentioned the Doritos, do they see their friends eating other things that they say, why can't I have that? Or do they simply... They don't usually. They've gotten to a point now where they don't ask, because they just know that it's just not an option. I am definitely not a 100% stickler when we're outside of the home, but when we're home, I don't buy those things. I just don't. I don't have them in the house, and I don't buy them. And I've explained, I think, enough times why, that they understand and they know I'm just not going to buy it. So they just don't even ask. So you don't bring it in?
No. And I think that's the biggest thing, is being consistent at home. I think that's where they'll have the biggest impact on them. And they reach for, like, when they want a snack, it's a cut up apple dipped in almond butter, and they'll eat it because that's what there is. That's what the snack is today. So it's a lot of people think, well, what would you possibly feed them? And they're used to their handfuls of goldfish and their crackers, and kids are resilient, and they adapt and they adjust, and if it's not in the house, they're not going to have it, and they just have to learn to deal with it, and they do, and they do fine. I think we're harder on ourselves. I think we feel like we're somehow depriving them because of what we've been, again, culturally ingrained to think. So we automatically think that, oh my gosh, I'm not giving them this, I'm depriving them, but we're really not depriving them. We're nourishing them and helping them to grow and thrive and be healthy. And I think in the long run, hopefully, my hope is that they will understand that, and they will have that into their adulthood, and make those choices when they're older.
Well, what would you like everyone to know the most today?
I think definitely that you hear the word paleo and you hear the word primal, and you automatically have these misconceptions in your mind that you are cutting out a major food group. I don't believe that grains are a food group at all. They're just not. It's not a major food group. You're not depriving yourself. I'm not cutting specific things out of my diet. I'm actually eating the diet that my body was designed to eat. So I think getting those, researching and getting those misconceptions out of your mind, and thinking that maybe, just try to think outside the box a little bit and think, yes, maybe there is some truth to this, and do the research and do the reading, and then, making those decisions, but making an educated decision, and really trying to understand that food does really have an effect on, what you eat really can affect your body. So I kind of have run the gamut with trying different things, and this is definitely, it's a lifestyle. It's not a diet. That's the other thing, and I think you said that earlier, and I always advocate for that it's not a diet. I think is restricting calories, and I'm not pro diets at all. And I'm not restricting myself, and I'm not restricting calories, and I'm actually eating quite a few calories, but just calories that are real food, and that's the difference. And
now, do you think you spend...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you think you spend more time cooking now than before?
Yes. I've definitely gained an appreciation for the amount of work that it involves, because it is work. It is a little bit more work, because you have to plan ahead. There's no going through drive-thrus before soccer practice and getting everyone a burger. There's just none of that. Like, fast food restaurants are completely, I don't think my kids have ever been to one. It's just not even an option. So you do a lot more packing, a lot more cutting and preparing and packaging, not packaging, but, like preparing and putting in lunch boxes and bags and things, food to go, versus making those stops. You're not making those stops anymore. It's not, there's no convenience foods. It's definitely a little bit more work, but you adjust, and it just becomes part of what you do. Like, I'm so used to just cooking every meal for them now. It's just part of my life. It doesn't really, I enjoy it, and I'm learning how to cook, and I'm, getting better and better and trying new things and feeling a little more brave, whereas before it was kind of like the same kind of meals. Definitely getting more creative, and it's fun, and I think it's pleasurable. It's not a bad thing, but it's just different, and it's learning that it's something that you have to get used to, because it's a change and it's different, and people have a hard time when we get set in our ways to adjust to something that's a little new and different.
Now, do you have any favorite kitchen tools, like a juicer, maybe a high-power blender?
I have a food processor that I found on Craigslist for like $5, and it's like a 1970s one. It's that beige and orange colored, but it's sturdy as heck. It's amazing the difference in quality. I think the appliances that were made just 30 years ago to the appliances made now, because this thing's like a bull. It runs and it's great, and I like that. I've never before used a food processor until switching to this diet, and then, I'm making meatballs in the food processor and making these different little dessert things, and like these chocolate balls and coconut balls and like different, so I'm using that a lot, so I'm enjoying that. And then the other tool is my, I have this meat masher thing that breaks up I use a lot of grass-fed Hamburg and break it up into a lot of dishes, and I love my meat masher.
But you're not spending a lot of money on these tools, so that's, I guess, an important point for a lot of people. They think, I need to go buy this and that. No.
No. I literally spent $5 on this super old food processor, and it's been working great for me. And there's really, just pots and pans and regular spatulas, and I don't use any crazy kitchen gadgets or anything like that. My stuff is actually pretty old, so there's nothing like expensive or exciting, and it works for me.
Well, we're about done with the show tonight, so I want to thank you for coming on. And do you have anything else to share with us before we wrap up?
No, just like I said before, to definitely keep an open mind and research and read about it and check out those books. And I think it's worth the time, definitely.
And what's your favorite go-to website or blog for important information to learn more about this lifestyle?
I like Mark's Daily Apple in terms of finding out information, and then recipes. A great is it's called nomnompaleo.com, NOMNOM. She's an amazing cook, and she shares a lot of great recipes. There's also one called Paleo Pots, and he shares a lot of crock pot recipes. So for people who just want to throw a bunch of stuff in a crock pot and then be done with it and have it cook all day, Paleo Pots is a great. There's so many of them though, and once you get on one, and then you learn about another and learn about another, and there's also a Facebook page called Just Eat Real Food. She shares tons of recipes every day from all different blogs and bloggers, and then you get to know the different blogs and bloggers that way by just liking her page on Facebook and seeing all the different recipes she shares. So that's a great one too. Okay, thanks. And your site again? Is www.primalblissnutrition.com, and it's also, I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/Primal Bliss Nutrition. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you for having me. It was nice. Thank you. Okay. And hopefully you've inspired some people to make some big changes for themselves. That would be great. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk with you again sometime. Okay, take care. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, you listened to Kathryn Koss tonight on the Paleo lifestyle, and go to her blog and visit it. She has a very detailed site. She just started it in January, but she goes through everything in great detail and talks about more than just food. She talks about exercise and meditation, so I thought that she'd be a great guest to have on. So in closing tonight, we'll talk about our Thrive magazine. We have our new issue coming out soon, and if you'd like to write for us or have artwork or poetry, we have an August 10th deadline for that. You can also
be a sponsor for us here at Awakened Radio. So if you liked what we talked about today or in the past, you can provide us a 30-second script about your business, and we'll record it, and it'll be at the start, middle, and end of each show, and then when the shows are archived, people will hear it over and over again. And of course, you can go and connect with me if you go to intuitionbyrob.net, and I post about the show there and discuss topics that I've talked about as well. So I'll have links to various ways to find farms and farmers markets on there as well. I believe if you go to nofa.org, you can find your local farmers markets. Thanks for listening tonight. Tune in next week, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. Thank you.